Now, the table is always hot with current events and social issues, but sometimes the heat can get a little intense. Let's turn the temp down, take a breather, and get into this week's topic cool down. So, Andre, I wanted to ask you, do you believe that human beings are inherently selfish?
Yes, I do. But I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that, in life, you have to be a certain level of selfish. Now, no one's saying that you have to be, egotistic. There's a level of egoism that's a little bit different. That's psychopathy and sociopathy kind of stuff. But there is a degree of selfishness you have to have in life. We've talked about this before, but like having to let some people go to protect your peace and having to say, I'm not going to engage in this conversation, or I'm not going to engage in this kind of rhetoric or this kind of friendship or relationship because it's no longer benefiting me. And even though it may sound like, oh, girl, like you think you're better, it's like, no, I don't think I'm better. I think that this person is not benefiting my life, so I'm not going to let them stay in my life. So there is a degree of selfishness we have to have as human beings to survive in this world. I mean, we know that life is not fair. We know that certain things and certain people try to take advantage of us and try to take advantage of our kindness. So I think that especially if you are one of those people who oftentimes put other people's needs before your own, you need to start being a little more selfish to protect yourself, because if you're giving everything to everyone, then you have nothing left. I think there's a story, I'm not religious whatsoever, but there's a story I heard about in the Bible where it's like, you don't give everything that you've got. If you have excess, then you give. And I think that that's kind of the way you have to look at life, is that no one's saying that, oh, okay, if your cousin or aunt or sister or whatever is like, oh, girl, I can't pay my rent. And you're like, well, girl, here's my rent money and pay your rent. It's like, okay, bitch, you still need a house to live in. You still need to pay your own rent. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing goes in life. But if I have my rent and then some, it's like, well, girl, here you go. I got some extra here. I can still pay my bills. I can still take care of myself and my home and my health and things of that nature. But I'm also able to share my excess with somebody who may be in need. But what about you, Daquon?
I completely agree. I think that humans are inherently selfish. Like, let's even think about as a child. When you are a baby just fresh into this world, you're focused on your needs before anybody else's. In
Yeah.
fact, you don't necessarily have the same capacity to care about other people's needs as you do your own needs.
Yeah.
If you're hungry, you're going to cry. You're going to do whatever it takes for somebody to feed you. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter if your mom was just up for 24 hours and just wants 5 minutes of sleep. If you're hungry, you're not going to give her that 5 minutes of sleep. And that's something that is just natural for babies because they can't take care of themselves. So they
Mm-hmm.
need somebody else to deal with their needs. I even think, like, as we think of the psychology and like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you don't have those basic needs met, like, that's the only thing you're going to care about. And like you said, it's not necessarily something that has to be negative, but when it gets paired with somebody who is egotistical and narcissistic,
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to be something uh that's completely negative. And I think we also need to think about selflessness as like this learned trait. You are inherently selfish. You care about
Yeah.
your needs as a baby and you want your needs met. But as a child, you have to learn, oh, there are other people who have other needs. This is what somebody looks like when they're sad, and you learn to, deal with other people's emotions and their concerns and everything like that. And like you said, like, I, I am somebody that will give a lot. Like, I will do a lot of things. I will carry a lot of hats and everything like that. But I've had to learn how to be like, okay, I want to give my all to this class and these 7 extracurriculars and this exec board, all of that. But I need to focus on me right now, because if I'm not here, then I can't be here to do all of these different things. So I need to make sure I'm good first if I care about all of these different things that I want to be a part of. I can't pay somebody else rent if my rent isn't paid. I can't pay for, a church to get its roof built if my roof needs a hole fixed. And so I think that we have to be able to ebb and flow between giving selflessly and also being selfish enough to care about our own interests.
Yeah, I think that even when we look at psychology, we learn about the id, the ego, and the super ego, whereas like the id is like, I want to do that now. And the super ego is like, well, it's not right to do that. And the ego is like, well, maybe we can compromise. And I think that's kind of how you should navigate life. It's like, I want to afford to go to work, or I want to afford my rent. And it's like, well, I could just steal from the store. I could just steal, go to the bank and just take the money, just whatever. And then the super ego is like, hold on, bitch, that's not you going to jail. There's prison system, the shit like that. And it's like a checking a consciousness, like, hold on, bitch, that's not the right move. And the ego's like, okay, well, we can't steal from the bank, but we need this money. So what is the compromise? Get a job, go to work, or X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of a little basic example, but like I think that's how we kind of grow up in life, is that, as a kid, like you were just saying, we grow up with that id. I want to eat. I need to use the bathroom. I need to X, Y, and Z. I need. And then we start to develop a super ego that says, from your parents and from your upbringing and from life, you start to learn, okay, well, you can't just hit this person because you're mad, or you can't just, take this food from this person because you're hungry. You have to do other things about that. And that ego is that kind of medium place. It's not selflessness and it's not selfish. It's in that nice little middle ground that says, hey, I want these things. How can I get these things in a way that's not going to hurt other people?
Right. We also have to remember that being selfish is subjective.
Ooh.
Everybody's not going to
Mm-hmm.
understand your needs and your capacity. They may be like, oh, you can definitely handle more than this. Like, you're just being selfish and not wanting to do more work. And it's like, no, I have things going on that you're not privy to that's
Yeah.
causing me not to be able to give X, Y, and Z, or give of my time, my money, my
Yeah.
treasure, any of that stuff that you're not privy to. So being selfish is completely subjective, and everybody's not going to be privy to all of the factors in your life that may cause you to step back a little bit, that may cause you to be a little bit more frugal with your money or your
Yeah.
time or anything like that.
Absolutely. Now, so many children grow up never knowing the full scope of what their culture has contributed to society and history. So it's time for a change. Let's take a pause, rewind, and remind the world just how we did that. In an article written on biography.com, we learn about Frederick McKinley Jones, born in Cincinnati, Ohio on May 17th, 1893, to a white father and a black mother. Despite his challenging childhood, Jones had a talent for and an interest in mechanics. He read extensively on the subject in addition to his daily work, educating himself in his spare time. By the time he was 20, Jones was able to secure an engineering license in Minnesota. He served in the U.S. Army during World War I, where he was often called upon to make repairs to machines and other equipment. After the war, he returned home to the farm. It was on the Halleck farm that Jones educated himself further in electronics. When the town decided to fund a new radio station, Jones built the transmitter needed to broadcast its programming. He also developed a device to combine moving pictures with sound. Local businessman Joseph A. Numero subsequently hired Jones to improve the sound equipment he produced for the film industry. Jones continued to expand his interests in the 1930s. He designed and patented a portable air cooling unit for trucks carrying perishable food. Forming a partnership with Numero, Jones founded the U.S. Thermo Control Company. The company grew exponentially during World War II, helping to preserve food, medicine, and blood. By 1949, thermocontrol was worth millions of dollars. Over the course of his career, Jones received more than 60 patents. While the majority pertained to refrigeration technologies, others related to X ray machines, engines, and sound equipment. Jones was recognized for his achievements both during his lifetime and after his death. In 1944, he became the first African American elected to the American Society of Refrigeration Engineers. Jones died of lung cancer in Minneapolis, Minnesota on February 21st, 1961.
Black people.
Every time I hear self-educated, that shit blows my mind. Like he said, bitch, who gonna check me, boo? Oh, I can't do that. Watch me.
I went to school for over 16 years. Like, self-educated? You did all of that yourself? Can't be me.
It's giving bad bitch energy.
Exactly. And I also have to think, especially now, like, think about how important those early, trucks with refrigeration in them was, not only back then, but now as we talk about vaccines being transported and everything like that, like,
Yep.
let's thank some Black people. Now, my We Did That comes from blackpast.org. Composer, performer, music critic, essayist, advocate, and teacher Harry Lawrence Freeman was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1869. Initially self-taught, Freeman's musical abilities were apparent at a young age. At 12, he started and performed in a boys' vocal quartet. He also worked as a church organist. At 18, he was composing music. In 1891, when he was 22 years old, Freeman had migrated west and organized the Freeman Grand Opera Company of Denver, Colorado. The company would perform his first operatic works, Athalia and The Martyr, at Denver's Duchess Theater in 1891 and 1893, respectively. Freeman held a variety of positions during his lifetime that enabled him to promote the cause of African American musical performance and production. From 1902 to 1904, he directed the music program at Wilberforce University. In 1906, both Harry and his wife Carlotta worked at the newly formed Pekin Theater in Chicago, the first theater of its kind to be entirely run and performed by African Americans. In 1908, Freeman moved his family to New York City, and the following year he became the musical director for the Cole Johnson Brothers Company and then musical director of the John Larkins Musical Comedy Company. In 1912, he founded and conducted the 75-member Negro Choral Society. And in 1920, the Freemans founded both the Negro Grand Opera Company and the Salem School of Music in Harlem, later renamed the Freeman School of Music. Freeman performed at Carnegie Hall twice during his lifetime, once in 1930 and again in 1947. He also composed and directed a musical event at the 1934 Chicago World's Fair that showcased the African American experience. In 1930, he received the Harmon Award for Significant Achievement by an African American in the field of arts and letters.
Woo! Another self-taught.
And composing music at 18?
At 18.
The talent.
The talent, like, every time, like, it's so crazy how much they did not want us to succeed, how much they wanted to push us down, how much they wanted to keep us from expressing our creativities and our intelligence. And we said, oh, bitch, we will find a way.
Right. We will be the Black firsts.
Exactly. It is so. Oh, I just love hearing that. I just love fucking hearing that. Like, oh, it's getting bad, bitch. It's getting bad, bitch. Like, now, as always, thank you all so much for watching, and keep the conversation going down in the comment box below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and if you are listening to us on our podcast, please rate and review on whatever platform you're using. You can also follow our podcast on Instagram and TikTok at the Melanin Margin for updates of new content.
And if you'd like to follow each of us, our handles are at Daquon MUE
and at Andre Talks a Lot.
Now we will see you all next time on the Melanin Margin, where our goal is always to bring the marginalized to the spotlight in any way we can. Goodbye now.